Hey, ELA, good to see everybody. Making a small video today. If you need a little support on pulling data, either using matrix or frequency reports, so you can complete this interim to reflection task and come to some conclusions about how you're going to change and shift your instruction based on some of the experiences of taking some of these prior assessments. There's lots of ways we can dig in and analyze the questions. Some of the two-part questions seem to be throwing us off. Some of the text-enhanced questions seem to be an extra challenge. And anything that involves extra need to go back in the text and search for evidence. We remember from any number of testing steps that that's a really valuable step that we don't want students to jump over, but it's also something we need to continue to practice. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to pull that information, and I hope this data will help you draw some conclusions. And again, think about some shifts and some re-instruction based on what we find out. Okay, so I'm in Illuminate and I'm on just basically the home page here. If you ever need to get back to the home page, remember you can click up here in the left corner. Okay, I'm going to go into view assessments just from this area on the tiles. You might find it a little bit more simple. I'm going to go in and find a grade level that I know took Illuminate for this interim 2. And I'm going to just put up their 09_ELA and I'm going to do a search. Okay, once you locate that test, the 09 ELA interim 2, I'm going to go ahead and click on the name of the test and open it up. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the very top where you see the blue tabs and I'm going to click reports. Okay, in reports, we're going to go over just the most probably useful 2 right now. And do that real fast because you've probably seen and heard this before, just as a nice reminder. Okay, the first one is matrix report. And so let's go ahead and just open that. Okay, you can see it's told us which test we're going to be looking at. Up here, we're going to change the site to a specific place. Likely you have only got one choice and it is your building. And I'm going to go ahead and pick Northeast High School and try to avoid showing any student data. Okay, we're going to go down here and instead of grouped by question, the best way we can really read the matrix report is by standard. And let's go ahead and click on by standards and then click view in browser. Okay, it'll take a second and say your report is being generated. And report finished. Okay, so right down below that, you can also download it to Excel. But from this screen, you can really just start to make some conclusions and click into some of this information. You can see that it's also hyperlinked and clickable. From this view, you can also see the standards. We got some student names there, so hopefully they're too small and you're not getting any ways to supply you with student data that we shouldn't make public. But really what I would like you to notice is that you'll see the standards and you'll see there's really what we were trying to do is have more than one measure of each standard. And sometimes in this case, like where 8% of students performed on this particular question, where 41% performed well on that question, we really would want to draw a comparison about what's different between those two questions. And immediately I can see that this one has 2 answers and it's a multi-select. So it's a big factor because in order to get that correct, you have to get both the first part of the question and the second part of the question. And so sometimes those are 2-part questions, and sometimes a multi-select, you have pick 2 responses or more that are true about this answer. So we'd want to go in and see exactly what that was. By clicking on the number of the question, it does really help you draw deeper into reading the rationale and then seeing what's the nature of the question and what might have had students selecting it incorrectly. You can also go back and see the largest amount of responses and what they were. You can see in a lot of cases, students selected more than 2 responses. And so this was a really challenging response. And often we find that those questions need a lot more practice and review in class. Okay, so there's an example of just how to get in and see the data. Remember, you're going to use this information in part to help process the conclusions you can draw that will help you with reteaching and going over some of these lessons as we go on into the next quarter. Okay, I'm going to show you one more report. So I'm going to go back a screen. Again, might be a useful one in coming to some conclusions about what you're going to do moving forward. I'm going to go to response frequency, and I'm going to open report. Okay, right off the start, I can see that it's doing all the schools. So again, I always make sure that we've got our one particular high school that you're part of, and then it will change what we see below here. Okay, I'm going to group by not question, just like we did in the past. I'm going to group by standard, and I'm going to do view in browser. What's nice from even this view, because I'm going to change it and do view in browser, you can see down below it, I haven't pushed this yet, and it still just says the number of the questions. But watch when I click view in browser. Now we'll have a little bit different sorting, and it'll be in particular standards, okay? And also down below, which is nice, is it's sorting the same standards, and you can view the questions. You can see particular amounts of students and why they might have answered all in one particular way. Like in this case, 25 students answered CC, which was incorrect, which is interesting because this question really isn't looking for more than one response. Looks like, it is, I'm sorry, AC. It was looking for A and C, not C and C. So it's a good way to go back and see what was so distracting about C being the theme. Often in ELA, it's challenging because it's looking for the best answer. A lot of times, a lot of the answers are very plausible or possibly could have been somewhat correct. But when we see that, find the best response, they're to weigh those responses against each other and then come to that conclusion. So dig into the questions, look at the type, the style, the wording, the phraseology, the vocabulary, anything else that you think might be a needful area to cover again, so students can have the stability and strength to answer that question when they see it later. All right, I hope that's been helpful. Get a hold of me if you need anything. See you guys.